We need to talk about Aleister Crowley, because every time I mention Kabbalah, grimoires, or working with non-human entities, someone inevitably asks, "Oh, so you're into Crowley? Are you like a Satanist or something?" No. Fuck no. And let me explain why Crowley, for all his theatrics and self-promotion, was basically the occult equivalent of a TikTok influencer. Lots of spectacle, mediocre content, desperately trying to seem more important than he was. Here's what most people don't know: the actual secret societies, the ones doing real work, the ones with legitimate lineages going back centuries, hated Crowley. The Golden Dawn kicked him out. The OTO barely tolerated him. He was basically a wannabe who read some books, did some drugs, had some experiences, then spent the rest of his life playing dress up and calling himself the Beast 666. Was he talented? Sure. Did he have some genuine experiences? Probably. But most of his work was theatrical performance designed to shock bourgeois sensibilities and attract attention. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Sounds edgy until you realize it's just libertarian individualism in a fancy robe. The Satan worshiper thing? Pure theater. Crowley didn't worship Satan. He didn't even believe in Satan as an entity. He was a poet, a bohemian, traveling the world on his large inheritance. Did he do cool shit like learn yoga in India, drink absinthe in the French Quarter of New Orleans? Sure. But he used satanic imagery because it pissed off Christians and made him feel rebellious. It was branding, marketing, the 19th century equivalent of being an edgelord on Twitter. Real esoteric work, the kind I'm teaching you, has nothing to do with worshiping anything. It's not about rebellion or shocking people or proving how dark and dangerous you are. It's about direct experience of consciousness in its various configurations. It's rigorous, systematic, often boring, and requires actual discipline instead of just wearing a lot of black and saying abracadabra a lot. But the wisdom is profound and will change the entire structure of your nervous system and perspective on life. The satanic panic never ends. People are still terrified of anything that involves grimoires, Hebrew letters, entities, or non-Christian spiritual work because of centuries of propaganda by the Catholic Church. I was raised Catholic, I know. The rituals of the Eucharist are just blood magic monopolized by the Church. Don't get me started. Plus Crowley making it all seem sinister and dangerous was pure theater. Hogwash, I tell you. Satan, as most people understand it, a cosmic force of evil trying to corrupt souls, doesn't exist. It's Christian mythology built on misreadings of Hebrew scripture and political propaganda. I can already see my comment section with phrases like, "Jesus loves you," "Repent now," or "You're going to burn in hell," and I'd like to address those people now. I'm Jewish. Back off. Apply the chosen people to your brain-washed propaganda and move on. Crowley's work, for all its theatrical flourish and deliberate provocation, operates within a framework that mistakes rebellion for revelation. His magic was performance art, dressed in ceremonial robes, a system designed to shock the bourgeoisie while remaining fundamentally tethered to the very structures it claimed to transcend. What I do isn't about inverting Christian symbolism or collecting titles like the Great Beast to feel dangerous. I'm not interested in elaborate rituals that amount to psychological theater, nor in philosophies that mistake self-indulgence for self-knowledge. My work exists at the substrate level of reality itself, where consciousness interfaces directly with the mathematical architecture underlying manifestation. While Crowley was busy writing elaborate grimoires to formalize what amounted to will-driven visualization techniques, I've spent 3 decades observing how attention literally sculpts probability fields, how specific frequencies alter dimensional permeability, and how grief opens portals that Crowley's entire thelemic system couldn't touch. He played dress-up with ancient systems he didn't fully understand, creating a McDonald's franchise version of genuine mystery traditions. I work in the direct observation of consciousness mechanics, in the actual physics of how awareness collapses waveforms, in protocols derived from witnessing over 100 transitions between states of existence. There's no need to impress anyone when you're simply documenting what is. All right, now we are going deep. I'm going to share a shocking story about Marcus Aurelius. Trigger warning. A beautiful empress sits naked, submerged in a copper basin filled with the still warm blood of her lover, the man she desired, dead on the floor beside her, executed on her husband's order. And her husband, Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, standing over her, watching, waiting for the blood to do what his words could not. This isn't fiction. This is what they say he did to Faustina, his wife. Marcus Aurelius discovered his wife had been sleeping with a gladiator, not a senator, not a nobleman, a fucking gladiator, a slave who fought for entertainment, whose body was property, whose life was disposable. Wow. And the betrayal wasn't just infidelity, it was humiliation. A philosopher emperor, cuckolded by a man who bled in the sand for coins. So Marcus didn't rage, he didn't scream, he didn't divorce her. He did something far more calculated. He went to the Chaldeans, the astrologers, the mystics, the men who claimed to see into the hidden, mechanics of desire. And they told him, kill the gladiator, drain his blood, make her bathe in it, then take her to your bed. The ritual would break the spell. It would purge her lust. It would restore the natural order. So he did it. The gladiator was executed. His blood collected, still hot, still heavy with life. And Faustina, Empress of Rome, mother of future emperors, was stripped bare and lowered into it. She sat there, in the blood of the man she had wanted, in the consequence of her desire, made liquid. And when she rose, dripping, Marcus took her, not as a wife, as a ritual object, a body cleansed through violence. This is ritualistic revenge, not hot anger, not impulsive fury, cold, methodical, sacred. This is shocking, truly, and far surpasses Crowley's meaningless sex magic. Marcus Aurelius wrote Meditations. He's the patron saint of Stoicism, the philosophy that teaches us to control what we can and accept what we cannot, to be unmoved by external events, to find strength in detachment. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But when Faustina betrayed him, Marcus didn't reach for philosophy. He reached for blood magic. Because Stoicism is a beautiful idea. But when your wife is fucking someone else, when your empire is watching, when your legacy is being mocked by a man who dies for sport, philosophy isn't enough. He needed something older, something primal, something that doesn't reason, it marks. Marcus couldn't control Faustina's desire. He couldn't control his own jealousy. So he turned her body into a site of punishment. He made her wear the consequence. He used ritual to restore what logic could not. This is what people do when they break. This story, real or not, has survived 2,000 years because we know it. We've felt that rage, that humiliation, that need to make someone understand what they've done, not with words, but with their body. When someone you love betrays you, you don't want an apology. You want them to suffer. You want them marked, changed, reminded that they belong to you, not to their own desires. Marcus made Faustina bathe in blood because words weren't enough. Forgiveness wasn't enough. He needed her degraded, broken, baptized in consequence. That's not stoicism. That's possession. That's ownership. That's the gap between the person we think we are and the person we become when we're hurt. We preach control. We preach detachment. We say we've risen above our animal selves. But when it matters, when the void opens, we fall. The void, ritual as consciousness. Here's the lesson. Ritual is what happens when reason fails. Marcus couldn't logic his way out of jealousy. He couldn't meditate his way past betrayal. So he turned to the oldest form of consciousness manipulation, ritualistic violence. The blood wasn't just punishment, it was transformation. It was a reset, a way to rewrite Faustina's body, to mark her with consequence, to make her remember what she had done every time she looked at her own skin. This is observer interference at its most visceral. Marcus couldn't control Faustina's desire, but he could control the ritual around it. He could shape the meaning. He could turn her betrayal into a ceremony that restored his power. The blood didn't erase what happened, but it reframed it. That's what ritual does. It transforms chaos into structure. It gives meaning to the meaningless. It turns suffering into symbol. And Marcus, philosopher, emperor, stoic, needed that more than he needed to be right. Have you ever wanted someone to feel what they did to you? Not just understand it intellectually, but carry it in their body? Have you ever discovered that the person you thought you were, the calm one, the rational one, the evolved one, was just a mask you wore until the moment it shattered? Marcus Aurelius was the greatest Stoic philosopher who ever lived. And when his wife betrayed him, he made her bathe in blood. The Chaldeans were the ancient world's ritual specialists, originally from Babylon, but by Marcus Aurelius's time, Chaldean had become synonymous with astrologer, mystic, and practitioner of forbidden knowledge. These weren't philosophers. They were the men emperors consulted when logic failed. When you needed to understand fate, read the stars, manipulate unseen forces, curse enemies, or in Marcus's case, cure a woman's uncontrollable lust. They worked with blood, with celestial timing, with the belief that human desire was a force that could be redirected, purged, or transferred through ritual. The prescription they gave Marcus wasn't metaphorical. It was literal sympathetic magic. The gladiator's blood carries his essence, his vitality, his power over Faustina. By bathing her in it and then having Marcus take her immediately after, they were ritualistically transferring that desire back to the rightful owner. It's pre-Christian, pre-rational. It's the kind of magic that treats the body as a vessel that can be cleansed, marked, and reprogrammed through physical acts. The irony is that Marcus, the ultimate rationalist, trusted them more than he trusted his own Stoic principles when it came to his wife's infidelity. Rome was deeply ritualistic. Oracles, blood sacrifice, and divination were institutional, not fringe. The Sibylline books, Greek oracles, kept by Roman priests, were consulted during every major crisis: plagues, wars, famines, political upheaval. Haruspices, Etruscan priests who read animal entrails, were standard at state sacrifices. Curse tablets and binding spells were found throughout the empire, even used against political rivals like Germanicus, where investigators found remains of human bodies, spells, curses, lead tablets, engraved with his name, charred and blood-smeared ashes. Marcus Aurelius's era was no different. During the Antonine Plague, 165 to 180 CE, which killed millions, the state would have consulted oracles repeatedly for remedies and appeasement rituals. Blood was sacred currency. Gladiator blood, specifically, was believed to carry life force and could be used in magic for healing, binding, or purification. The Chaldeans weren't outliers. They were mainstream consultants for elite Romans dealing with problems philosophy couldn't solve. The twist is Marcus, the ultimate rationalist, participated in this system when his own control shattered. Blood magic works, not because of supernatural properties, but because of ritual certainty. The psychological threshold crossed when you use the most primal substance available. Blood is the absolute. You can't walk it back. You can't undo it. You can't rationalize around it. When Marcus has Faustina bathe in the gladiator's blood, he's not just punishing her, he's collapsing the waveform. The ritual forces both of them into a definitive reality, where the affair is irrevocably marked, processed, and sealed. It moves the betrayal from abstract thought, jealousy, doubt, rage, into physical consequence, blood, body, sensation. The consciousness shift happens because the observer stops interfering. Before the ritual, Marcus is stuck in mental loops. Did she? Doesn't she love me? What does this mean? After the blood, there's nothing left to question. The act itself becomes the conclusion. Reality reorganizes around that certainty. The finality of using life's literal essence, blood as the carrier of vitality, identity, power, creates a psychic anchor point. It's not magic. It's entropic resolution through ritualized certainty. The system reaches equilibrium because the observer commits fully. Marcus Aurelius, standing over that basin of blood. What if he wasn't engaging in superstition? What if he was accessing something humans have known for millennia? That blood, specifically plasma, can create irreversible psychological and spiritual transformation? Consider this. Blood carries certainty. When you use blood in ritual, there's no ambiguity left. The observer stops interfering because the act itself becomes the conclusion. Reality reorganizes around that finality. For thousands of years, every culture on Earth seemed to understand something about blood. It wasn't just symbolic in their practices. Look at the patterns. Binding contracts sealed in blood, oaths that couldn't be broken, transitions that couldn't be undone. The priests acted like they knew something. The shamans, the alchemists, even the emperors. Then the church arrived. And here's what's interesting. They didn't eliminate blood rituals. Look at the Eucharist. This is my body, this is my blood. That's still a blood ritual. But notice what changed. Suddenly there was only one acceptable blood ritual, one ceremony, one set of priests who could perform it. Thousands of years of diverse blood practices across every culture, all declared demonic, dangerous, evil. Ask yourself, why would they keep one blood ritual while condemning all others? What's the difference between what Marcus Aurelius did and what happens at communion? Both use blood as a transformative medium. Both claim it creates irreversible change. Both require ritual precision. The only real difference, who controls access. Before Christianity, if you understood blood's properties, you could use them directly. After, you needed permission. You needed their priests. You needed their church standing between you and the practice. They told you that blood magic was demonic. But consider, what if they just didn't want you to have that power for yourself? Because if blood, your plasma, your life force, can actually be used to mark reality, to seal intentions, to create irreversible change, what do you need them for? And here's where it gets interesting in the present day. Walk into any plasma donation center in America. They'll pay you $600, sometimes more, for your plasma. They tell you it's for pharmaceutical manufacturing, immunoglobulins, clotting factors, albumin treatments. But ask yourself, why do they need so much? The volume of plasma being collected globally doesn't quite match the medical demand they claim. Pharmaceutical applications are real, yes. But the scale of collection, the infrastructure, the money involved? Where does all that plasma actually go? Who's buying it? What are they really using it for? The ancients understood plasma had properties beyond biological function. They knew it carried something: consciousness, vital essence, spiritual signature. They treated it as valuable beyond measure. Now we have an entire industry built around extracting it from people who need money. Consider the pattern. The church takes blood magic away from the masses and monopolizes it in their ceremony. Then, centuries later, we have a medical industrial complex paying poor people to give up their plasma in massive quantities. Different system, same principle. Controlled extraction of what they once called sacred. Marcus Aurelius consulted the Chaldeans because he knew philosophy wasn't enough. The Chaldeans prescribed blood because they understood something about consciousness mechanics that we've been told to forget. Every pre-Christian culture seemed to know this. They had different methods, different traditions, but the same core understanding: plasma carries power. Then one religion convinced the world that only their version was acceptable. So here's what I'm asking you to consider. When you hear that blood rituals are primitive, demonic, or barbaric, who's saying that? Who benefits from you believing it? When you're told that only sanctified priests can work with blood, and only in their approved ceremony, who profits from that restriction? When ancient practices that existed for thousands of years across every continent are suddenly declared evil, what knowledge might have been lost? Or more accurately, what knowledge might have been monopolized? And when a modern industry pays you $600 for something that regenerates in 24 hours, what do they know about plasma that you don't? The church didn't necessarily save us from blood magic. Look at the patterns yourself. Draw your own conclusions. But ask yourself, who benefits when you're afraid of your own blood? And who profits when they can buy it from you cheaply? What we've discussed across Marcus Aurelius, Aleister Crowley, and the plasma economy is the same mechanism repeating: esoteric knowledge wrapped in whatever narrative serves the system extracting it. Philosophy, rebellion, medicine. The wrapping changes, the extraction stays the same. The real work isn't choosing between these frameworks. It's developing the perception to see when knowledge, especially knowledge about blood, consciousness, and transformation, is being repackaged and sold back to you as something else. Propaganda isn't always a lie. Sometimes it's the truth wrapped so tightly in narrative that you can't see what's actually being taken from you. Be aware of what perception is, and be aware of what propaganda looks like when it's dressed in modern knowledge. The players haven't changed, only the narrative.